This fence here is making a very important statement. As you can see, it draws a definite line clean through a piece of property. That's because this land is owned by two different people. The fence lets everyone know that the land on this side belongs to one person and the land on the other side belongs to another person. Hopefully, the fence will keep the two from fighting.
Inside, outside. This is mine, and that's yours. Private property. Keep out. That's how fences work. A fence tells us something. For one thing, it tells us that this piece of land belongs to someone. There is an owner. No one can come in and mess with it. Someone who owns property has power to keep people out. So a fence becomes important. It marks the owner's turf. It says, you belong on here by invitation only. Fences also provide privacy. Not only do they keep people out, but they keep them from watching what happens inside. Fences separate people from people. People use fences for security. Prickly fences are designed to keep harmful intruders out. Families grow up on property inside fences, and what's inside becomes very dear to them. It belongs to them alone. They call it home. They know they can leave and come back whenever they want to. It's like a security blanket, and if they lose it, they are very sad. But we should remember that people are more important than fences or property. Even if they work to own their property and then mark it with fences, owners should not let property become more important than people. Because what they own is really not theirs at all. It is a gift from God, who made the world and everything in it. The best use they can make of it is to honor God with it, to help someone who does not own anything. The Bible says, if someone who is supposed to be a Christian has enough money to live well and sees a brother in need and won't help him, how can God's love be within him? Let's stop just saying we love people. Let's really love them and show it by our actions. And that can be done with our property as well.
We'll be back after this. Not all people use fences. Some cultures don't believe in marking property clearly. Even though they designate territories for each other, they share. This is the case with some hunting and gathering societies. Members of a large group share the water, share the animals they hunt, and the roots they dig up. Something that has become very important in our society is money. Although we don't put fences like this around it, it's still a kind of property. As people moved from the simpler life on the land, they developed a complex system of exchanging what they owned. They called it money.
Can you guess what all three of these have in common? String of beads, tar, and salt. All of them at some time or other have been used as money. That's right, money. If I went to a Coke machine and filled the coin slot with the salt from this salt shaker, you'd say I was crazy. Obviously things have changed. Thousands of years ago, people didn't even use money. They bartered. Say, you have a skateboard that I want, and I have a video game that you want. If we traded, we would be bartering. But there's a problem with bartering. What if you don't want my video game? You want a bicycle instead. I have to find someone who wants what I have and has what I want. This would be very hard. We need something in common to represent what we own. Say, marbles. Now I can give you marbles for your skateboard, and you can exchange them with someone else for a bicycle. Using marbles like this makes them money. We've agreed that they can be accepted to pay for something at a given time. By 2000 BC, the Macedonians were using silver as the way we were using these marbles. Silver and gold became very popular as money because they are valuable and easy to divide into usable pieces. Something people soon realized was that the weighing of these marbles, or the gold and silver, is important. One merchant got tired of always weighing his gold, so he stamped the pieces to show their purity and weight. We could try to do that with our marbles too. Now all we have to do is count them to show how much value we have. That's why our coins and dollars are marked. In the mid-1600s, a French colony in Canada was in trouble. Each year, coins were sent from France to the colony to be used as money for the coming year. Because of the long voyage from France, the coins often arrived late. The colonists were stranded without money. Jacques de Meules, the intendant in 1685, solved this problem. He issued card money to represent the coins that were on their way. The best he could find were playing cards. The seal of the treasurer and the signature of the governor and the intendant authorized the playing cards as money. This is like me giving you a piece of paper as a substitute for the marbles that are coming. You could buy and sell things with the authorized piece of paper. The paper itself would be worthless. It's what it represents that would count. In the Middle Ages, governments started to debase coins. This means that they added less valuable ingredients to the gold or silver. This would be like grinding up marbles, mixing salt and flour to the marble powder. New marbles made from this mix would still be stamped with the same value as before. This way, more money pieces could be made out of fewer marbles. In 1910, the Canadian government said that each coin dollar had to have 23.22 grains of gold in it. In 1933, all of this changed. The Canadian government decided that dollars didn't have to have gold in them anymore. They could now produce as many coins as they wanted, regardless of whether there was gold in the bank or not. The dollar bills and coins in themselves were almost worthless. They only represent what we own because we say they do. They don't even represent gold anymore. As long as everyone agrees that one thing is going to represent value, it can be money. Who knows? Someday Canada decides to use marbles as money, your marble collection could become very valuable.
It's possible for us to become so attached to the things we own that we feel a lot of pain when we lose them. Can you imagine what it must be like to be the captain of a ship caught in a storm or in the ice, knowing that the ship is soon going to sink? The ship and everything on it will be lost. Here's a diver who also wonders what it must have been like for this ship that sank.
Many thousands of shipwrecks went down in the maritime area since it was such a busy shipping area. Many went down during the 1800s, leaving lots of pieces along the bottom for divers to explore. Here is a picture of an anchor hanging on the anchor davit at the bow of a shipwreck called the Tunstall. This is a recently discovered shipwreck which went down off the coast of Prince Edward Island in 1884. The ship was caught in the ice during a heavy ice season in May. Got pinned in the ice. A hole through the bow caused the water to flood the compartments which contained coal, and the ship went down bow first in about 60 to 70 feet of water. No lives were lost. The men and the crew aboard the boat walked ashore. 3 men stayed in a lifeboat on the or near the wreck, and were out on the ice for 3 days before they were finally rescued. Because of this interesting occurrence, much is left in the history records about this incident. Very little is known about these schooner steamships in the era of the 1880s. The stern of the boat has its propeller half buried in the sandstone bottom. Much of the stern is still quite intact and has survived the ice over the last 100 years. The quadrant, which is still separated from the stern of the boat. Just aft of the boiler, and about the midship, it lays the crankshaft, which is connected to the steam engine, and connected to the shaft, which run the four-bladed screw propeller. The crankshaft is apart and laying on the bottom, which is a little bit of a mystery why it wasn't still connected. Also, in the near the crankshaft is a spare propeller, four-blade propeller, which was kept on the deck. The deck, which was once wood, has now been eaten away by shipworms, and just the metal parts are left remaining.
Another very fearful thing would be an approaching forest fire. Here's the description by a camp worker who had the surprise of his life one morning when he stepped outside of his cabin at a Bible camp. One of the first things he did was prayed. It's almost as though God put up a fence of his own and said to the fire, "So far and no further." And so the people were able to keep using this piece of property for a lot of good.
Something about spending your summers at a camp and being outside in the camp just makes it great to be alive. You step out of your trailer or your cabin in the morning and you can just take a great big gulp of fresh air, hear the birds singing and the sun shining. It's just a great place to spend your time in the summer. But the morning of the fire, things were a little different. I remember I had been sleeping in my trailer and I awoke to the sound of someone ringing the chapel bell again and again and again. Then I heard someone yelling, "Fire! Fire!" So I just had time to pull on my pants and I ran out of the trailer and I heard this big rushing roar out behind the camp, and I turned and looked, and as far as I could see there was a 40-foot wall of flame. It had crawled right up into the top of the trees already, and there was a huge fire moving down towards the camp. Well, at a time like that, your mind kind of shuts off and your body just starts rushing around. Our first thought was for the safety of the people at the camp, and we began to evacuate them. We managed to get them all out to the highway before we've called in the fire attack crew and the water bombers. We ran down towards the fire just to see what there was to see. And I remember as we were running down towards the fire, I was just praying, "God, this is your camp. You've put it together here. You're in control and you're going to have to do something." Well, we came up towards the fire, and the fire had already burned right up to the back of the buildings of the camp. And it just seemed that as it crawled towards the buildings, all of a sudden it seemed that it ran out of steam. The fire died down a little bit and the wind changed. It began to burn back in on itself. Well, there wasn't a lot that we could do, but we pulled out the fire extinguishers and we pulled out the shovels and we began to do what we could to fight the backfires. Within about a half an hour, the fire attack crew had arrived. The water bombers swooped down and began to drop water on the fire. And it's just amazing the way that God had his eye on things here at camp. And we just praise God for keeping his eye on us here at Simon House Bible Camp.
Bible Camp has historically been involved with relating to kids, and we see that as an important aspect of ministry, of reaching out to young lives and telling them, influencing them with the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Camp life becomes a bit of a laboratory of Christian living here, that campers can actually see that, hey, Christianity does work. And so it provides us an opportunity also to talk to kids about some of the deeper questions that they have. It gives us time to build a relationship with that camper on a one-on-one basis. I have seen kids changed. One fellow who came was just a rowdy character. As we sat and talked, says, "Listen, the direction you're going is wrong here at camp, and you're not leading your friends the right way." And he was encouraged and challenged to look at positive leadership. And when confronted with that, he decided he would become a positive leader, and within that week of camp decided to do things to help the counselor to be supportive of what the regulations were at camp here. And he led his cabin group with good leadership. And at that fireside, that camp, he shared, and he says, "I learned something this week, that it's more fun being a positive leader than being a negative leader." That's just one small example in terms of the impact that 1 week of camp can have. We've had kids come here for the first time, have heard of a God who loves them, who cares for them. They experience the beauty of God's creation, and that God is a powerful God. Many churches use this site, this facility. This is a place that is significant for them. They say, God meets us here. There's been a lot of work and a lot of development. A lot of people have given of their time, their energies to build the campsite and to make it what it is today. And we've sensed the blessing of God upon this place. And if people have come up and have been involved, we have also sensed that they say, hey, a part of me is there. The Ben Falk Memorial Chapel that we have here is a chapel that attracts comment and interest to anyone who comes to visit the camp. And there's a story behind that. It's called Ben Falk Memorial Chapel because it was built in memory of Ben Falk, who was the first camp director for Simon House Bible Camp. He was a pilot as well. He was flying from the PA to Niverville to attend the missionary conference, which he was to speak. He was also to recruit staff for the summer. And just about 60 miles out of the PA, he ran into the anticipated must have been a whiteout, and couldn't get back, couldn't land his plane, and where it looks by attempts that he sought to, and in the whiteout just lost the bearings, and the plane crashed and he was killed. They found in his briefcase, he felt that the one thing this camp needed was it needed a chapel, a focus in terms of this is the place where God meets us, a special place where we can come to talk to God, to commune with God, to tell about God. And he had in his briefcase plans of a chapel, and it was similar to the structure that we have here today. And so we just see all of this, the hand of God in that, in saving and preserving this facility.
It's important for us to make decisions about the things we own. For one thing, we can lose them easily and suddenly. We can get so attached to the things we think we own that we fall apart when we lose them. It helps to remember that, really, everything we own comes as a gift from God, even if we've worked for it. There's a story in the Bible about a young man who found it very hard to accept this.
One day, a good-looking young man came to talk to Jesus. He knew how to use money, and he was a sharp dresser. People wondered why in the world someone who had everything would want to talk to Jesus. But he did need something. "Good master," he said as he knelt in front of Jesus, "what do I have to do to get into heaven?" He knew that all the money in the world couldn't get him there. Now, Jesus loved the young man. He must have seen a lot of potential in him. But just because Jesus loved people, that didn't mean that he wasn't demanding of them, or just told them what they wanted to hear. "What about the 10 Commandments? Have you kept them? Don't kill, steal, or lie?" he asked. "I've obeyed them all my life," the young man insisted proudly. His sincere efforts were no news to Jesus. Being the Son of God, he knew what was going on in the lives of people, including this man. "There is one more thing for you to do," Jesus said. "If you do this, you will have what you want." No problem, the young man thought. After all the things he'd taken on in his life already, one more shouldn't break him. "What is it?" he asked confidently. "If you want to be perfect, go home and sell everything you have, give your money to the poor, then come follow me and be my disciple," Jesus said. Well, that shook him up. It was something he had never thought of doing, and something he hadn't thought Jesus would ever ask of him. He was very quiet for a long time. His mind itemized piece by piece the things he had in his home. He didn't want to part with any of them. The price was simply too high. And what about following Jesus? Who knew where that could lead? It was asking too much. He took one last look at Jesus, then turned and walked away. It made Jesus sad to see him go. Here was a young person who could be an excellent follower of his. But Jesus could see that he loved things more than he loved God. Jesus turned around to look at the disciples who were already following him, and then summed it up for everyone. How hard it is for people with riches to get into heaven, he said. People may not get rich following Jesus, but there is a wonderful reward for being with him, getting to know him, and being in heaven with him someday. And that's worth more than anything in the world.
We'll be back after this. We'd like to hear from you at The Third Story. When you write, we'll send you a free survival kit, something to help you get to know God better. It includes a poster with Bible verses on it, a Bible study book, with a book of the Bible, a book of cartoons and stories, and a helpful book of Bible verses for the whole family. Write for your free kit to The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. That's The Third Story, Box 2, Station F, Winnipeg, Manitoba. We'll be waiting to hear from you. One of the things God wants us to do with what we own is share. And sharing comes more easily when we treat everything we have as a gift from God in the first place. If we love Him, we will be able to love others and share with them.
Little flower, where did you get that pretty gown you're wearing? Paris? It fits you perfectly. Not a size too big or too small. How much did you pay? And where did you get the money? I know, those colors just grew on you without you worrying one little bit. It's not fair. Dressed better than a princess, and you didn't have to work a minute for it. And to think it's only for a short time. In a few weeks, you'll wither and die. You'll be gone forever. Same with you, dressed real pretty, and you never worry. You don't even worry where your next meal is coming from. Instead, you sit there on your perch and sing. Oh, and here's me, counting my cleaning money over and over, crying sometimes because I want that gorgeous dress I can't afford. I lie awake, wondering what they're going to think of me at the dinner party this weekend. I'd love to have them all over to my apartment and put on a big spread for them. But the things I can afford, well, boiled rice and carrot sticks just aren't very exciting. Besides, my apartment's too small. Aren't people supposed to be the top of God's creation? Living a lot longer than this flower and bird ever will. Worry, worry, worry. That's all I ever do. They say God cares about the people He made. I wonder what He'd say if I ever told Him all my worries.
Choices we make, they fix our future. How can we know what's wrong or right? Talk to God, He's there to listen. Walk with Jesus, He'll show you the way. He'll show you the way.